Welcome back to the Get Loved Up podcast, your number one resource for inspiration and motivation to live your purpose, make healthy living a priority, and thrive doing what you love. I'm your host, Koya Webb, a small town girl who chased her dreams and caught them, a former track and field athlete who healed using spirituality and yoga, and an entrepreneur who didn't let sexual assault, racism, and insecurities dim her light. And now it's your turn to allow these episodes with some of the top voices in spirituality, wellness, and entrepreneurship to inspire you to thrive. Let's get loved up together. Mel is one of the leading voices in personal development and transformation and an international best-selling author. Her work includes the global phenomenon, The 5-Second Rule, 4 #1 best-selling audiobooks, the #1 podcast on Audible, as well as signature online courses that have changed the lives of more than 500,000 students worldwide. Her groundbreaking work on behavioral change has been translated into 36 languages and is used by healthcare professionals, veterans organizations, and the world's leading brands to inspire people to be more confident, effective, and fulfilled. As one of the most widely booked and followed public speakers in the world, Mel coaches more than 60 million people online every month, and videos featuring her work have more than 1 billion views online, including her TEDx talk, which is one of the most popular of all time. Mel! Oh! Y'all, this woman, I'm telling you, I've had so much fun getting to know you over the last couple of months. I think it's one thing to see you online and on YouTube and all of the 1 million places that you're just uplifting people in the world, but to actually spend time with you and see how much you truly, genuinely care for people has been absolutely amazing.
What a wonderful thing for you to say. I appreciate that. I will say, since everybody watching this follows you, the experience of being near you and in your physical and spiritual presence in real life, it's like 1,000x everybody in terms of the grounding and the chill and the centeredness. And you literally are the embodiment of what I call body confidence. And that is not like you look in front of a mirror and you're like, yeah, I love my body. But it's really feeling and being comfortable in your own skin with who you are.
And I feel the same way about you. I feel like not only are you comfortable in your own skin, you actually encourage people to be comfortable in theirs because you authentically admit, I'm not always feeling great in my own skin, okay?
Yes.
And I think that's what I loved about your book. And y'all, if y'all haven't picked up The High Five Habit, one of the things that I loved is that you were so raw and you were so real about letting people know, look, every day ain't great. And most days actually are not great.
Bring it up.
You're a bestseller.
Yes.
You reach thousands of people, millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And, you know, your TED Talk went viral, all of these things, but they don't see the behind the scenes.
Right.
And so they listen to you and pick up your book.
Right. Like I think that the reason why I have organically grown in terms of that TEDx talk and the number of people we reach every single day online. And look, like you have this huge presence too. And so I think for me, the reason why we have grown so quickly is because it is not a highlight reel.
Right.
Because I am just sharing the day-to-day and the behind the scenes. And the truth is, I actually think that more days than not are extraordinarily challenging. And they're challenging because I have a brain that defaults on what's going wrong. And I have a brain that has been for decades used to pointing out the things that I don't like about myself, or assuming that everything's my fault, or assuming that everything that's going on throughout the day means something's wrong. I mean, down to something as ridiculous. Like, this is how crappy my brain is. today's my birthday, okay? And a friend of mine that I have known for years, we've raised our kids together, calls me to wish me a happy birthday. And this is one of those friendships that has had its ups and it's had its downs. We've been super tight. Then we've drifted apart. We're coming back together now. And as we were talking and we're on a phone call where this person has called me to wish me a happy birthday, there is this weird pause. And immediately my brain inserts, she doesn't actually like you. She's calling you out of obligation. Oh, no. Like literally my own mind. There are times that I do feel like I must have like a multiple personality disorder because I am a super positive and optimistic person. And at the same time, I have a brain that any chance it gets will try to convince me that I've done something wrong.
Right. I think we're all like that. Like, yes. I have to be honest. I feel that way sometimes when you get a text from someone or you text someone and they don't text you back in like a day or two, you automatically start thinking, are they mad at me?
Yes.
What did I do? So how did you get beyond that? Because I know a lot of people are feeling that right now.
Right.
How did you get past that?
I didn't. So what I'm trying to say is that you will always and forever need to wrestle your brain. You will always and forever have to fight to focus on the positive. You will always and forever have to catch yourself when your mind drifts to the negative. And the reason why that is true is because in your day-to-day life, there will always be things that trigger old patterns. Always, whether it's a text that doesn't get responded to or seeing a group of your friends out for lunch and nobody invited you, and instead of inserting, they just bumped into each other, dropping kids off at school. That's why they made an impromptu plan. Of course, they're not thinking about me right now, and they don't need to be. Instead of inserting that, you insert, what did I do wrong?
Right.
And so I think that it's really important for everybody to understand this is normal. This is what everybody's dealing with.
Yeah.
This is what you need to get serious about catching and changing. Right. And just because you teach yourself, whether it's through the high five habit or it's through the 5-second rule or it's through anything else that, anybody else that inspires you is teaching you, letting your fears make you fierce, you will have to use these tools.
Right. And I was actually going to say, I feel like your 5-second rule, I want you to touch on that just a little bit. Your book, The 5-Second Rule, can you talk about how that in this situation can be beneficial and how you use that?
Okay, great. So the 5-second rule is a simple little brain hack, has a lot of science. It's going to sound dumb, but it's really, really powerful. In a moment where you're either hesitating or you're thinking something really rotten, like, there's an awkward pause in this conversation. I bet she doesn't actually like me. You're inserting something. Just count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the counting backwards interrupts the negative thought. So the second I start counting backwards, as my mind is telling me, this person must not like you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're like, boop, slap you out of my mind. And the counting backwards makes this part of your brain focus on the counting. And the second that you get to 1, you have a moment of control. And that's where you can insert a different thought.
Yes. I love that. It's so simple. And that is your superpower. Simplicity is your superpower. I don't know if anyone's told you about it, but simplicity is your superpower. And I think that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because we always have to change those limiting beliefs. And I say into liberating affirmations, but you also work a lot with limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Right? And can you kind of dive into that and like how you really work with your limiting beliefs on a regular basis?
Well, so staying on the 5-second rule for a second, the 5-second rule is extraordinarily powerful because step 1 of breaking and replacing limiting beliefs that have probably been in your brain for a lifetime. And when you really start to examine them, might actually be generational.
Yeah.
So your limiting beliefs may be your mother's limiting beliefs and your grandmother's limiting beliefs and your great-grandmother's limiting beliefs, because the human brain is designed to learn patterns. So if you hear somebody either being hard on themselves or being hard on you as a child, you tend to adopt that pattern of speaking as your own to yourself. And so step 1 of breaking and replacing limiting beliefs is to start to become aware of what those beliefs are.
Right.
And so for today, the next week, whatever, I want you to just notice when your mind or your mood drifts to a negative place. Mm-hmm. And it's important to just notice it. That's it. Just notice it. You're not going to be able to replace it just yet because you're so used to drifting into this negative landscape. And, you know, the experts that study thought patterns say that we have between 50 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Mm-hmm. They estimate that between 80 to 90% of them are negative. And so your resting state is likely negative. And so the first step is, let's just start to pay attention. And there's a simple way to pay attention. You don't even have to be paying attention to what you're thinking about. Just pay attention to whether or not you're present or whether or not your energy is low. That's it. If your energy feels kind of low, if you feel kind of heavy, if you feel kind of like just in a negative emotional state, I guarantee your mind's probably negative. So that's step one. Step two, when you start to realize you're there, just immediately take control in 5 seconds. Count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mm-hmm. It'll snap you out of autopilot in the subconscious negative state into the conscious part of your brain. And then say this. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that. And I want you to start there because we cannot trust you. And I'm saying that for real. You cannot trust yourself, having thought these negative things for this long, to actually successfully punch them in the face and then replace them with something positive. We got to just get skilled at spotting it and interrupting it. Right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not thinking about that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not thinking about that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not thinking about that. And for the first week, you might say, I'm not thinking about that 73 times a day. But what you're doing is you're doing that hand to fist combat with the negative thoughts that run on default. You're like, punch. No, I'm not doing that. Punch. I'm not thinking about that. 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 Then you can get into what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Which is the work of replacing the thought. Mm-hmm. And you can do that through affirmations that you believe, or you can do that through this new thing that we're talking about called the high five habit.
I love that. And I want to let you just keep rolling on like how you do that. How do you actually turn around? Because I think we are to a place where some people are acknowledge it and some people aren't. But for those who say, okay, I'm going to acknowledge this is negative. I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling a funk. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now, how do they start to shift for those that are ready?
Okay, great. So if you are sick and tired of beating yourself up, if you are sick and tired of focusing on what's not working, if you are sick and tired of the self-doubt and the self-criticism and the self-hatred, this is a game changer. And I only learned this 18 months ago. So despite all of my success, Koya, on the outside, being me was this weird mix of having positive outbursts of energy and enthusiasm in the moment, combined with a deep, relentless, grinding internal voice that was critical, that had a lot of self-hatred, that was constantly making me feel like the world was aimed at me and that I was screwing everything up.
Yeah.
That was my experience. And I think that is the majority of people's experiences. That no matter how good it looks on the outside, the majority of human beings who are adults either can't look at themselves in the mirror. And this was a huge wake-up call in researching the high five habit. 50% of men and women, and this is not a blind, double research, PhD-backed study. This is looking at hundreds of thousands of people that are taking the high five challenge. This is looking at, you know, the millions of people that follow me and the feedback that we're getting. 50% of the people that first try to do this high five habit, which I'll explain in just a second, report that they can't even look at themselves in the mirror. There is so much self-hatred, or disgust, or judgment. It is so sad. And I am on a mission to wake everybody up and to teach everybody a fundamental, simple habit that unlocks science in your brain and in your nervous system to help you break the habit of self-rejection and self-hatred and self-doubt.
Right.
And that's where the high five habit comes in. And so the high five habit is very simple. First, I'm going to explain it, and then we can kind of unpack it however you think will benefit everybody that's listening. So all you're going to do is you're going to stand in front of the bathroom mirror. And I want this to become part of your morning routine. And there's lots of science around why I want you to do in the morning. We can get to that in a minute. But you're just going to stand in front of your bathroom mirror. And I want you to take a moment and I want you to look at the human being in the mirror. Mm-hmm. And that right there is a complete change from what you're doing right now. Because what you're doing right now when you stand in front of the mirror and you brush your teeth, or you stand in front of the mirror and you get ready for your day, is you either ignore yourself, you won't even look at yourself. That's a form of self-rejection.
Right.
Or you focus on all the things that you need to fix. Your hair, your makeup, the things you don't like. And so you start your day with a habit in your morning routine of rejecting yourself. Mm. And that habit of self-rejection has created the insecurity that you feel.
Yeah.
That habit of self-rejection is what drives your need for validation externally. Yeah. That habit of self-rejection is why you think you're only worthy if somebody else says that you're worthy. Mm. And so the high five habit is all about using science to break the habit of self-rejection and replace it with a habit of self-empowerment, self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-love. And here's how you do it. You're just going to stand there. You're going to look at the person in the mirror. And notice I'm not saying reflection.
Right.
There are two people in the bathroom every morning. There's you and there's a human being in the mirror who has been waiting for you to wake up and realize that they're there. They are trying. They are doing their best. They are so beaten down by your relentless criticism. Mm. They need you. They need you to see the positive. They need you to compliment them. They need to be kind to them.
Yeah.
And so I want you to take that in for a minute, because you're staring at your soul, at your spirit, at your essence, at your humanity. Mm-hmm. And most of us have never actually considered that. I hadn't. And then what I want you to do is I want you to just reflect for a second as you look at that human being. What does she or he or they need from me today? Mm-hmm. Something you've never asked yourself. Because right now, what your morning routine is that you drift into your day and you start thinking about everybody else. What do you need to do for everybody else?
Right.
What's all the things on your to-do list? You have skipped the most important person, and that's the human being in the mirror. And I want you to literally stop and ask yourself, what do he, or they need from me? And it might be, I need you to have some freaking fun. I need you to stop being a bitch. I need you to be a little more positive here. I need you to reach out to some people. Yeah. And ask for some help. Something will pop in your mind.
Yeah.
And then take a deep breath. And then, as cheesy as it sounds, I want you to raise your hand and I want you to high five that human being in the mirror. And something crazy is going to happen. So this is why this is so revolutionary. Regardless of how weird the high five habit feels, regardless of how much you may resist it, regardless of how kind of corny it is, you will immediately feel your mood shift, because your brain doesn't know the difference between high-fiving somebody else and high-fiving yourself.
That's what I love about it. I love that it's so simple and silly, because we need to play more.
Yes. And so when you give somebody a high five, Koya, what does the high five communicate?
Yes. We got this. You're awesome. Just love.
Yes.
Basically, it communicates love.
It does. You're right. And it communicates a lot of different forms of love.
Yeah.
So it could be a high five that's really encouraging, I see this is hard. You got this.
Yeah.
It could be shake it off. Keep going. It could be I love you. It believe in you. We're together. It's partnership. It's like this massive, wonderful feeling of love. Mm-hmm. You have never high fived somebody and thought, I hate you. I hope you fail.
Yeah.
You're ugly. You're worthless. You've never done it. And so you can stand before yourself in the bathroom mirror and hate the person you see. Yeah. But the second you physically raise your arm and you do the motion that you've done your whole life, your brain shuts off all thinking and it taps into the programming in your mind that says, I believe in you. I love you. I see you. Keep going. And then you feel this boost in your mind and in your mood, every time somebody else is giving you a high five, your brain has released dopamine. That's why high fives feel so good.
Yeah.
The other reason why a high five feels so good is because your nervous system recognizes it as somebody celebrating you. And so you get this affirming life energy that jolts through your body. And so your brain, again, and your nervous system doesn't know the difference between me high-fiving you and me high-fiving myself. So even on my lowest days, Koya, when I high-five myself, I get a dopamine drip.
Yeah.
And I get this nervous system boosting the energy. And that's why it feels so good. We are using programming in you and aiming it back at you so that you have the benefit of belief, of self-love, of positive mental programming, of dopamine, and of a jolt through your nervous system. It's freaking bananas.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that. I love that it's so simple. I love giving myself a high five. And I love something that you say. You say, and I don't know if this is your quote or something from someone else, but you say, the way you view yourself is the way you view the world.
It's true.
That's powerful.
It's true. Well, let's talk about people pleasing. So many of us struggle with people pleasing. Well, people pleasing for a long time, I thought people pleasing was about like making other people like me. That's what you're doing, but that's actually not the source of people pleasing. People pleasing is not about the need to be liked by other people.
Right.
People pleasing results from you not liking yourself. So people pleasing is about you and your self-hatred and your insecurity.
Wow.
Yes.
That's going to wake a lot of people up.
What did you just get from that?
People pleasing is more about how you feel about yourself than how you feel about others.
Correct. Because here's the thing. If you like yourself, even though you're not where you are, even though if you like yourself, even if you don't like where you are in your life right now, if you can still look in the mirror and see a person who's trying, a person who's worthy of support, a person that you're going to root for, a person that you like, because you deep down know, even though you're way more than you want to, even though you don't have the money you want, even though you're not in a relationship yet, whatever it is that you've been bashing yourself for, if you can look in the mirror and see somebody you genuinely like, because you know deep down they're a good person and they're trying and they've survived a lot and they are a person that's worthy of being liked, because you know who they are at their core. If you can feel that way about yourself and treat yourself that way by giving yourself a high five, that's how you demonstrate that you like yourself. When you go out into the world, if somebody doesn't like you, it does not take away from the fact that you still like yourself.
Right.
If you treat yourself with respect and somebody out in the world disrespects you, that will not change the fact that you still treat yourself with respect.
Right.
The core problem is that most of us look in the mirror and reject the person that we see. And then we bring that insecurity out into the world. And we are looking at lovers and bosses and friends and family to then make us feel secure or make us feel loved, when the root problem is we don't love and like ourselves. And so we got to bring all of that back in house.
Right.
Using the high five habit, you can show yourself, demonstrate to yourself, and practice what a person who likes and loves and respects themselves does, which is they wake up every day and they treat themselves with loving kindness. And the best part for me about the high five habit is you actually don't have to say a word. And in fact, I recommend that for the first 5 days, you don't. Because your self-critic and your brain programming is so negative and relentless, and it's been in there for decades, that I want you to feel the benefit of the science.
Right.
I want you to just stand there and look the human being in the eyes in the mirror. And I want you to raise your hand and notice what you're feeling. You can't help but crack a smile after you do this for a couple days because of the dopamine.
Right.
You can't help but shift how you see yourself because of the nervous system wiring. We've had reports back now from people who have said this really interesting thing. They've said, you know how can you recall a time in your life where you actually remember getting high fives?
Yeah.
When was it? Can you describe it? Put us at the
Basketball.
scene. Okay, put us right at the scene.
Oh, yeah. So playing basketball, I mean, that is the best place for high fives. High school, I mean, for a whole year, I rode the bench. But when I actually started getting rebounds, making points, high five. The more high fives I got, the better I got because it boosted my confidence in myself.
Correct. And, there's a study actually with the NBA that proves this.
Yeah.
So they took a look at NBA teams. Researchers did. I think this was in 2011. There's a massive article in the Wall Street Journal about this, as well as a published academic study. They looked at NBA teams. And do you know you can predict what teams are going to have the winningest record at the end of the season by looking at behavior in the preseason? And the behavior that predicts whether or not an NBA team is going to have a winning season or not is the number of pats on the back, fist bumps, and high fives that a team gives one another in the preseason.
Wow.
Because just as you said, based on your lived, felt experience, playing basketball, being in high school, being on a team, feeling the encouragement, the momentum, the support. High fives aren't gestures. They communicate trust and partnership and belief. So when you high five a teammate, you're communicating, we're in this. I believe in you. Shake off that shot. Even though you're on the bench, you're a valued member of this team. Keep trying, keep going. And the corresponding data about the teams with the worst record was also true. They had the least number of pats on the back and fist bumps and high fives. Why? Well, when every player's in it for themselves, it creates distrust and selfishness.
Right.
And so by high-fiving yourself in the mirror, you can create that same partnership with yourself, and that same momentum starts to get created every single morning when you send yourself into the game of life every day, the way you would send yourself back into the game of basketball after having a team huddle.
I love that. And it actually brings me to one of the most important pillars of Get Loved Up, which is spirituality. And I kind of want to dive into spirituality with you because I feel like giving that high five is bringing people back into divine alignment with themselves.
Okay, say that again, because that is exactly right.
Giving that high five is bringing people back into alignment with themselves, with spirit, with the universe, with God. Because that negative self-talk is taking you out of alignment with love, out of alignment with spirit. And so that one act, because I know you say habits, I say ritual. We have so many different language, but what I feel when I give myself a high five and when I practice that positive self-talk is alignment with spirit.
1,000%. So all of the negative talk, like remember, let's go back to the two human beings in the bathroom, you and the human being in the mirror.
Yeah.
The negative self-talk stands between you two. And when you go to raise your hand and high five yourself, it is a moment of divinity with yourself, with your universe, with the spirit, with God, with whatever you believe in. You will feel that energy if you allow yourself to. You will feel yourself coming home. You will feel yourself stepping back into alignment with who you truly are in your essence, which is a being that is worthy of love, a being that is worthy of support simply because you exist. Like today is my 53rd birthday. And when I think about birthdays, right, what are you actually celebrating?
Right.
You're celebrating life. You're celebrating your breath. You're celebrating the fact that you're still here. And there is something divine about that. And every single morning, if you make the high five habit a ritual that starts your day, you are also bringing the celebration of your life and your existence into your morning. And the thing that I love about this, because, I love gratitude and I love meditation, and these are extraordinary practices that with documented benefit. I'm married to somebody who's a Buddhist meditation instructor and a certified yoga instructor.
I love Chris.
Yeah, Chris is just awesome. And interesting thing about Chris, though, is that here he is practicing every single day. He is a disciplined guy, right? Meditating daily for probably 8 years. Okay. Meditation teaches you self-awareness, and it teaches you how to not react to thoughts. It doesn't change the default opinion that you have about yourself. Gratitude, if you look at what most of us write down when we practice gratitude, it is external. It is rarely something within you. And what I love about the high five habit and why this simple ritual is so divine and spiritual is because it is about reconnection with self. It is and will. What I've experienced after doing this now for over a year is when I step into the bathroom, I don't even need to high five myself. I still do.
Right.
But what's happened over this repetitive ritual of raising my hand in celebration, encouragement, empathy, support, and love to myself every morning, no matter where I am, where I'm waking up, how I feel, just part of how I begin the day, is over time, because of the science, it has reset my mind.
Right.
I don't even see a person I would ever criticize. I don't even see my face. I just see this human being that I love.
That's beautiful. And I think with meditation, with the high five, with these rituals, it gives us the time to come back to center. And people use things in different ways.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it is the opportunity to come back to center, to kind of crowd out the noise. Speaking of noise, especially with social media, and I know you're a force for good, positivity out on social media, but there's the other side. I'm going to be honest. I can't help but look and see like, oh my goodness, I feel like less than if I don't have this, if I don't have that, or I'm not doing this and everyone's doing this and I'm not doing that. And no matter how much I'm going to be honest, like I personally work to, align, stay focused on what I'm doing, love myself, be great. I still get caught up in comparing sometimes and wishing I had something that I don't have, or feeling like I'm behind because I'm not there yet. I'm not where Mel is. I'm not doing this. What is that?
That's being human.
Yeah.
And that is your desire.
Yeah.
Blocked by insecurity. So comparison, jealousy, envy, all that stuff where you put yourself in relation to somebody else.
Yeah.
And you use that comparison as a way to invalidate or reject yourself. That is human nature.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the high five habit can help you with, because you will never go through a day in your life, I believe, without looking at another human being and going, I wish I was as tall and as beautiful and as healthy as Koya. I wish that I was meditating every day like Koya. I wish that I, was sponsored by Aloe and had all these amazing things that Koya is. I wish I, lived in this incredible neighborhood that feels like a Costa Rican yoga retreat. I wish there's so many things that I don't even have a camera set up like this. So I'm like, I wish I was set up like this, like Koya is. So when you start to realize that all of that yearning, that is what comparison really is about, is desire that's blocked by insecurity. So when you find yourself comparing yourself to somebody else, and you find it to be in the lane of jealousy or invalidating you or comparison, just take a pause for a second and let's flip it with curiosity and let's go, oh, well, what's that about? What's that about?
Yeah.
And the message that I've gotten loud and clear for myself lately is, oh, I want to get off the road. I want to spend more time taking care of myself and practicing mindfulness and creating content. And I want to launch a podcast. And that's why I'm jealous of everybody like you who already has a podcast, already has your ratings, already has a ton of people that listen to this. Already, I look at you and I'm like, I'm behind Koya. Here we go. Here's more evidence. No. Let's flip it and unpack it. Well, what do I love about what she's doing? What feels like it's right for me? And then what happens is, instead of everybody becoming somebody who's ahead of you in some race, what if the people that you are drawn toward, that either it feels a little like jealousy or invalidation or comparison, what if you could flip it into curiosity and let it go, what is it about what they're doing that actually feels like it's calling me? And what is it about what they're doing, this is important, that doesn't feel like me?
Right. That part.
Yeah, that part.
That part's important.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you go down this huge, long lane that's not for you.
Correct. Because you're driven by your insecurity instead of your curiosity. Because curiosity opens the door for your desire to flow through.
Right.
Insecurity locks your desire in a cage. and it eats you alive. Because when you feel like you're losing a race, you're not motivated to take the actions and to take a step toward what you want.
Right.
And so I think when you flip it into Koya is a light on the path of my life. She's not ahead of me. She is in service of my mission. Because there is something about what she's doing that lights up something in me. And her example is lighting the path I need to walk down.
I love that.
That's the way that I look at you. And I want to say something else. So yesterday we were at our friend Lisa Bilyeu's house, and we have, I feel like I have, at the age of 53, the female friendships that I have always longed for in life. And they're new friendships. And whether it's Amy, who is sitting on the floor here, who is out of reach, who is a new friend, we both moved to Vermont. I mentioned her in the last chapter of the book. Shipwrecked there, thinking we made the worst mistakes of our lives. Or all of our friends, from Glow to Maria to Marie Forleo to Lisa Bilyeu to the Boss Babes to Roddy to just this incredible group of women who, interestingly, were all sort of in the same space of self-empowerment and self-improvement and authors and content creators. I don't feel competitive with anybody. I don't feel insecure. Like, I feel so supported and lifted up. I've never had a friend group of women like this. And what was interesting is yesterday you and I were talking, and you were, just remarking at how awesome it is to see the High Five Challenge going with 100,000 people, 103,000 people as of this morning.
Yes.
From 91 countries, 30,000 comments of high fives and people's putting up selfies and allowing themselves to be seen and supported by this community. It's so exciting. We'll talk more about it at the end of this, and Koya will give you a link that you can follow to sign up for free and take this 5-day incredible challenge. But you said to me, I'm waiting for it to be my turn. Because you're relaunching your book. And I said, when are you doing it? And you said, I'm waiting for it to be my turn. And here's something that I want to say about that. I think that's a beautiful thing if the waiting is grounded in faith that there is divine timing to everything.
Right.
Because I think we put pressure on ourselves to believe that right now or tomorrow or as soon as possible is what you're supposed to be doing.
That's powerful. And I'll tell you why I say that. And I tell you why I feel the same way. I don't feel any comparison or any cattiness or any of that of course, I'm sure you felt before and I felt before. And I think it's because everyone is very secure in who they are and what they have to offer. And I'm going to say this because this is very important, and I'm just feeling it more because I think we're both calling powerful female energy into our life, as well as all of those women that you mentioned. When you are a high-powered, high-shine woman, I think it's important to know you want to shine your light, but everyone is not going to be on the stage at the same time.
Yes.
And right now, you're on this stage and we're all supporting you and getting behind you and uplifting you. And I think that's really important to call out. And I'm glad you brought that up because I've noticed it's like if everyone's fighting to be on stage, then one, it's not clear because everyone's talking at the same time, but now we're uplifting you and your book and your philosophy. We still got things going on, but I think it's important to know that when you're in a group, how to hold space for other people without it being all about you. And that's what I mean when I say when it's your turn, it's just like speaking. It's like Mel speaks and the next person speaks and the next. And I think it's very important, especially when you're calling in more female, high powered, high voltage relationship is to give everyone their turn.
Yeah. And you know what I was just thinking about is how if you think about the history of time, women always came together to do that, particularly around births.
Yeah.
Supporting one another in your time to bring life to something. And I feel that incredible energy with this group. And it's been so life-changing to be on the receiving end of it that it makes me 1,000 times more excited to be on the giving end of it. But so I wanted to also say, though, that what's interesting for me is that in the, when I think about my life, right? And I think about the fact that we wrote the 5-second rule 5 years ago. And that book never got any press whatsoever. Like literally nothing. There was not a high voltage female energy because I was not secure with myself. I was not attracting shit. I was in survival mode still. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, 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 go. Literally 6 years ago, there were still liens on Chris and my house from the financial mistakes that we made and a business failing 6 years ago.
Yeah.
As I'm on stages around the world talking about the 5-second rule, there are liens on my freaking house.
Yeah.
And so what's been interesting is I have for 4 years tried to write another book. I have tried to force it. I have tried because I felt scarcity. I have tried to just do it. And so when you said that yesterday, that I'm waiting for my turn, it made me realize now that I've seen both the 4 years of frustration when I was trying to force it, it wasn't my turn yet.
That's powerful.
And the resistance and the fact that the thing wasn't coming, the idea wasn't coming, it didn't feel right. Like I literally probably dictated 5 or 6 books in that period of time.
Wow.
Fired by a publisher because I couldn't get anything done. Like just could not happen. And the high 5 habit, I think again, was a moment where after all of that waiting, which I got myself through. So how do you say, what is this, the phrase you say about affirmations?
Changing your limiting beliefs to liberating affirmations.
Liberating affirmations.
Yeah.
So the liberating affirmation that has really gotten me through these last 5 years is this moment is preparing me for something amazing that hasn't happened yet.
Woo, that's good.
Every time I couldn't come up with something, a publisher's canceling a contract, I screw something up, I stall out, I see somebody else kind of getting the spot that I thought I was meant to get, I get fired from my dream job, whatever it is. This moment is preparing me for something amazing that hasn't happened yet. And it's a way to high five your attitude from that woe is me, it never works out, I'm always failing, everybody else wins, I'm not part of that club of cool people that help each other, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
This moment is preparing me. And I think everybody has been blown away by the fact that how on earth, Mel, were you all of a sudden on 53 podcasts
Amazing.
that released all within the same 3-week window? And I'll tell you why. Because for the past 5 years, I have been on 3. We couldn't even get publicity for my daytime talk show. Wow. And at the moment, I'm like, woe is me. See, I'm the bad news bear. See, nobody, like even when I have a daytime talk show, I'm such a failure. Nobody wants to actually even write about it. If you Google the talk show, the only article you will find is when Snooki came on the show. That is the article you will find about my show that aired 167 times.
Wow.
And was the #1 talk show on WGN in Chicago. And like that's what you will find. And I now know, and I would say, Mel, don't get yourself all up in arms about Tamron Hall and Kelly Clarkson and Ellen and all these amazing people that you once loved and now hate because they're beating you to what you thought you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't go there, Mel.
Right.
This moment is preparing you for something amazing that hasn't happened yet.
I love that.
And you know what it's preparing me for?
Yeah.
The High 5 Habit launch.
Wow.
Because that's what God and the universe wanted the world to know about.
That is powerful. And I have to take people on your journey, though, because I am fascinated by how many jobs that you've had.
Oh, my God.
And I have to go here because I think it's so important, especially when you talk about being prepared for something and also the time it takes to build. And I want you to share, because a lot of people are doing a lot of different things right now, trying to figure it out, trying to realign, trying to pivot. We've all heard it. So can we share with people like how many jobs you've had
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I love that you're asking me how many jobs I've had in my lifetime. So I'm 53. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I believe absolutely everything that you do is preparing you for something amazing that's coming. That hasn't happened yet. Everything. Mm-hmm. And almost every job that I've ever had gave me a life lesson that I have used in a very pivotal moment in my life.
Right.
And so let's go through them all, because I come from a very hardworking, working class family.
Right.
Farmers, machinists, bakers, maids. Like, this is my miners. Like, this is hardworking. This is what we do. Yes, my dad and mom put my dad through medical school, but he's like the first professional in the generations of people that I'm related to. So I started working young. Mm-hmm. So I was a babysitter. There's one. I was a lifeguard. I taught tennis lessons. I would sub on a paper route when kids could have paper routes. I then was a hostess and a busser at a restaurant. I was a short order cook. I was a waitress. I was a bartender. I always worked in college, so I worked at a cafe, and then I became a baker and baked bread on the morning shift. And then I worked for a temp agency after college, and then I got assigned to be a paralegal. And then during the summer, during law school and during law school, I would clerk at like the DA's office or, at a law firm. After law school, I was a public defender in New York City for legal aid doing criminal defense work. That's 15. We're on 15 and I'm only 23.
Wow.
15 jobs. Wow. Then I worked for a large law firm in Boston. I hated that job. Then I worked for a digital marketing company, a content company called eMode, morphed into Tickle. Then I worked for another one. Then I got fired from that job from Bullhorn. This would have been 2000. Then I worked for a digital marketing agency. So now what are we even at? We're at job 19.
Wow.
And I'm 30.
Wow.
And I've got 2 kids.
Wow.
And then I trained to become a life coach. Uh-huh. And that was 2001. So I'm now life coaching and working part-time until I have enough money to be able to life coach full-time. I do that for a couple years. And the life coaching has somebody write an article about me, and that leads to me getting a paid position on CNBC to be a commentator. So we're at 21 jobs now. Then I get offered a reality show from Fox that was supposed to be like a business makeover show, like Extreme Business Makeover Show. And that's a whole horror story because they changed the television show to being Makeover the Office to we're going to fire people on national TV. Oh, thankfully, it never aired. Then I lost that job. Chris's restaurant started failing. We were $800,000 in debt. That's when I launched the 5-second rule. So we are now at, where are we even? 27 jobs? 22 jobs? I don't even know where we are at this point. I'm literally in 2008, $800,000 in debt, unemployed because I'm fired from the show from Fox when it doesn't air. I used the 5-second rule to get out of bed in 2008, and I get a job. I beg a former coaching client to give me a part-time gig, helping them with office operations because I need to pay my bills.
Wow.
I auditioned for a Saturday morning radio show because I just thought, okay, I need the $50 and it's on Saturday mornings and I get it. So that show then expands into a weekday show. We're now at 30 jobs.
Wow.
30 jobs. And I am now in 2011. So that would have been 10 years ago. So I'm 43, 30 jobs by the time I'm 43.
Wow.
I then give that TEDx talk, which launches my speaking career. I then, because of my...
If you haven't listened to that, go check it out.
my radio show, that's 5 days a week, wins an award in CNN calls. So suddenly I find myself with a full-time job with CNN as a... paid commentator doing legal commentary on some of the biggest social justice cases in this nation's history, from the murder of Trayvon Martin to Freddie Gray to Tamir Rice to Michael Brown to Eric Garner. I was there on television unpacking these issues for anybody watching. It was just an extraordinary experience. And, you know, again, what prepared me for that? Representing people at Legal Aid. And understanding being somebody in the system fighting systematic biases and discrimination every single day as a criminal defense attorney.
Wow.
What it actually means. That prepared me for that moment. Where are we? CNN? I don't even know what time, where we're at. Oh, and the speaking career then takes off and I'm speaking. And then people start to write to me about the 5-second rule. So I write a book. And then I realize I could actually help more people by doing courses. So I start creating courses. And then the book's so successful that Audible comes to us and said, would you produce more audio content? So we start an audio content production division in the company. And then Sony Pictures comes to me and says, would you be willing to host a daytime syndicated talk show? I think we're up to like 36 jobs at this point.
It's amazing.
And I'm 50 years old. And each and everything I've ever done has been a dot on the map of my life, preparing me for something that was coming next.
That's so powerful. And I'm
not done.
I know,
I'm
right?
not done.
She's not done.
I got another 30 jobs in me at least. At least.
I love that. And I love that you just give yourself permission. And I think that's what you did well in the book, as well as like take us through some of those stories and really allow people to feel that you're going to have times when you feel like a failure, but you're not. It's just preparing you for that next moment. And I think a lot of people need to hear that right now, because a lot of people lost their jobs in the last year. A lot of people lost family members. And I kind of want to go into that as well, because your relationship with your family means a lot to that. And you went through a lot during all of these job transitions.
Oh my God.
And even now, can you share a little bit about how you're able to keep it together as a mom?
You think I can keep it together as a mom?
I love you.
I don't even know how to answer that question, honestly. I guess, you know, in looking back, because there have been, like, one of the reasons why I know so much about anxiety is because I fucking struggled with it for 30 years. One of the reasons why I know so much about kids and anxiety is because I have kids that have struggled with it, and I have made every mistake in the book because their anxiety triggered my anxiety. So my whole brand of personal empowerment involves Mel Robbins or somebody she loves falling into a hole or digging one. And then I gotta manufacture a ladder somehow.
Right.
And so I feel like I'm always falling forward. And I feel like your life is like an up and down roller coaster. And the whole point of it is to ride the whole thing.
Right.
And to experience the highs and the lows. And, you know, I think one of the most amazing things that I love about the family life that Chris and I have co-created is that we deeply care about what our kids are feeling. And we, for better or for worse, force them to talk about that.
Yeah.
And so we are aware when our kids are hurting, and we are aware when they are doing okay. And mostly, you know, your kids are okay when they're ignoring you and they don't, like, I haven't heard from our 16-year-old son in probably 5 days. And that's a good thing.
He's good.
It means he's happy. It would be weird if he were 16 years old and attached to his mother at the hip.
Right.
You want them to be happy and independent in their lives, and you want them to come to you when things are hard. And you do that by giving them space. And you do that by realizing that your job as a parent is not to put them in some sort of mold and shape them.
Right.
It's to help them discover who the hell they are.
Yeah.
And how to make a decision and how to feel the consequences of bad decisions.
And I love the fact that you are able to really hone in on how people are feeling, because I feel like feelings and asking children, partners, friends, how do you feel? I have an alert in my phone every single day at noon, and it asks me, how do you feel and what do you need? So can you dive in a little bit on...
I need to do that.
Yes, I highly recommend it, because we go so fast in life that we don't even tap in. Are you thirsty? Do you need some water? Do you need a nap? Do you need a hug? Do you need a high five? And so when you just stop in the middle of the day, especially as an ambitious, most people listening, they're entrepreneurs, ambitious, just go, 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 go. You know, you're in the middle of the day, you haven't even eaten. So it's so important not only to ask yourself how you're feeling, but I think also, you know, and to your point, ask your children, ask your partner, how are you feeling? That's like bringing them back to that connection with self. And
well, I'll tell you though, here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Unless you can stand with the person in the mirror and look them in the eye and see and encourage and support them exactly where they are, and most importantly, where they're not. Most people either don't know how they actually feel or they won't tell you. And I learned this in a very painful way, because it's only recently that I have learned that my husband, Chris, has been struggling with a very profound and long-term form of depression. And I think he was afraid to admit it to himself because he felt that it meant that there was something broken and it scared him. And so I just want to explain like just how I think disconnected so many of us are. I have stood next to the love of my life in my bathroom. His sink is right next to mine for 10 years. It's been more acute in the last 7 years. But for 10 years, I have stood shoulder to shoulder with him. And I had no idea just how depressed he was.
wow.
And I don't think he did either.
Right.
And, you know, thankfully he meditates. Thankfully he exercises. Thankfully he watches what he drinks. Thankfully he journals. Thankfully he has created a men's retreat called Soul Degree that gives his life a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
But depression is a disease that impacts you chemically, physiologically. It is a cloud and a weight and a fog that impacts you. And so it ironically, and he has been doing the work, whether it is the meditating or therapy or guided MDMA, trauma treatment. And what's interesting is it was the high five that really, I think in many ways, broke a lot of things open.
Right.
Because you can sit in a therapist chair and talk about all the things that you wish you could change and talk about how you feel about yourself. But it's very hard to change the way you treat yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're moving from a space of what you're talking about or what you're doing to a new space of how you're being with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a really difficult bridge because it feels like an intellectual bridge. And so when I first started doing this high five in April of 2020 to support myself through an incredibly difficult moment in my life where I felt overwhelmed by my life and unable to face it. And so the high five became something I started doing just instinctually because I needed something. And I said to Chris, you know, I think you might want to, and we hadn't even started talking about the word depression yet.
Right.
I think you might want to try this. And he's like, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm not high-fiving myself. Like, please, you know, we know you're positive, Mel. You go high-five yourself. And so for the first month, I'd high-five. He'd be standing there brushing his teeth. I'd be finished, put my toothbrush down. I'd high-five myself. He would not do it. And then then the depression diagnosis came up. And I started hammering him. I really think you should do this. I'm actually feeling something change within me. And he started doing it. And it sort of gave him this personal experience of realizing, and this is the way he said it. I thought it was stupid because for a decade, I've looked in the mirror and see a person who's failed. My restaurant business failed. And as proud as I am of you, your success has magnified the fact that I always believed it was my job to be the one providing and to be successful. And so it has magnified my sense of being lost.
Yeah.
And I look in the mirror, and for a decade, I see a person who doesn't deserve a high five. Mm-hmm. That's why it would feel stupid to give myself one.
Right.
And through the process of raising his hand and high-fiving himself exactly where he is, dealing with depression, accepting himself for who he is, forgiving himself for the stuff that, this is where we all are, by the way. I'm using Chris with his permission as an example,
right? Because
I think it's a very relatable one.
Right.
Until I'm through this hole, then I'll high five myself. Until I'm making some money, I'll high five myself. Until I no, you got to high five yourself now, because the high five isn't, I'm awesome. The high five is, I see you. And I know you did some stuff and you feel some stuff that you're having a hard time forgiving yourself for. I'm still going to love you.
Yeah.
I'm still going to believe in you.
Yes.
I'm still going to support you. It's how you heal. It's how you give yourself permission to turn the page and start a new chapter.
Right.
It's how you start to create a new relationship with yourself. And it's extraordinary.
It is. And I will say, as a person who experiences depression, is that sometimes you don't know until you're out of it. Or you don't know until you listen to something like this podcast and you start crying, or you don't know until something happens. And that's what happens, especially with very high functioning people who also experience depression. It's like sometimes there's no like, hey, you're depressed until you feel it. And I feel like it's important and that's why I love that you say it's a habit. And it's not about what you're doing, it's about who you're being. I wanted to come back to that phrase because I think, especially right now, we're thinking, what can I do right now? Everything's uncertain. What can I do? But I feel like the high five brings people back to like, who are you being? Are you being in love with yourself? Are you validating yourself? Are you connecting with yourself no matter what you're doing?
Yeah. And let's go back to the basketball analogy. We would never start a basketball game together by me going, Koya, I think there's no way you're going to do okay in this game. Like you really blew it in the last game.
Right.
Like I've seen how you played.
Some coaches do that.
Pass you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, that's not how you start a game you want to win.
No.
So like for those of you that are barely able to get out of bed.
Yeah.
The reason why this is important is because the high five gives you a drip of dopamine that changes your mood.
Yeah.
When your mood lifts a little, you can focus better and you feel a little more encouraged. When you give yourself a high five, your nervous system gives you a jolt. Yeah. And that little bit of positive energy is like fuel in your tank. And, it's not that the high five in the mirror is going to change all the circumstances of your life. It doesn't change that. It changes you.
Right.
And it changes your ability to face them. And one high five at a time, one day at a time, one little dopamine drip, one little nervous system jolt, one little affirmation that is physical where you demonstrate that you still have your own back, you will start to take the steps that lead you where you're meant to go. You're going to tap back into that confidence you were born with. You're going to reconnect with the resilience that you've been building your whole life. You're going to remind yourself of who you are. A motherfucking superstar. That's right. You know what I'm saying? Like that is what it's doing. That's why it's divine. That's why it's spiritual. That's why it works.
Yeah.
And I can say that not because it worked in my life. We're doing this thing called the High Five Challenge. We have 103,000 people taking a 5-day challenge where I unpack confidence. I teach you how to break through self-doubt. We go into the science of the high five habit. There are research-backed journaling prompts that you do. We've taken it off a Facebook group and it's housed on the Growth Day app, right?
Yeah.
And it is free for you to do for 5 days to get all of these tools. And it's not on Facebook, so there are no ads. There's no cross-posting. It's one community of people who have shown up. And day one, you watch a video, you do a journal prompt. And then I'm like, and put a photo of yourself in the comments and introduce yourself and why you're here so you can allow yourself to be seen.
Yeah.
And seeing people from 91 countries alone in their bathrooms high-fiving the mirror and realizing everybody needs this. Like, you need to know you're not alone. You need to know that right now is the moment in time where you can give yourself permission to believe in yourself again. You can stop holding your breath. You can actually do small things to take control of your life. Yes. And we are here to support you in the High Five Challenge. And I know you're going to put a link in your show notes and send everybody to it.
It's so simple. It's so powerful. And so many people are already saying, yes, I'm in this. And I love that it's free. I love that it's focused on community. I love that people have the opportunity to be seen, because so many of us are hiding, especially after being a year closed off. So I think it's brilliant. And I want to get into a little bit before we end today with just the other things you kind of suggest, like the journaling. I think the journaling, the visualization. So can you take people a little bit, give them a little inside scoop, an inside peek of what they're going to experience?
Oh, and the High Five Challenge is incredible. Okay, so all you need is a first name and an email address.
Yep.
And that's how you get in. It's free. And then you just got to log into this app called Growth Day. You can either download the app. It's the world's leading personal development app, or you can just take it online. If you can get to the internet, you can just log in using the link that Koya is going to provide you for free. Day one, you watch a video.
Yeah.
That's it from me.
Yeah.
You then get a journaling prompt. You journal. Yes. If you want to take notes on the video, you can, and they're saved. And then you go to the comments. You're going to be like, oh my God, look at all these people in here. That's incredible. Yeah. Whoa, and look at what Ralphie has to say. And look at what Maya is saying in Bangladesh. And what? There's somebody in here from Burma? Holy cow. Whoa, there's somebody from Oklahoma in there. Yeah. Look at that. That person right there in Belgium is feeling the same way I feel right now. It's extraordinary. And then you're going to come back for day 2.
Yeah.
And then you're going to come back for day 3. And then you're going to come back for day 4. And then you're going to come back for day 5. And by the end of it, you are going to feel something you have not felt in a very long time. Hope. You're going to feel motivated. You're going to feel empowered.
Right.
You're going to feel like, there's work to do.
Yeah.
But you can high five your way there.
I love that. Well, everyone's joining, everyone's signing up. And so this is a question that I ask everyone on the podcast. What is your biggest fear right now? Because you're doing great. You're inspiring so many people. You got so much going on. You're doing so much good in the world. But I know that it's not without fear. So what would you say your biggest fear is right now?
Right now? This is the first thing that popped in mind, and it's really weird. I wonder if it's because we're in Los Angeles and I'm going to see our middle daughter tonight. My biggest fear in this moment is I feel today on my birthday almost like I'm experiencing a rebirth. I feel more content and more kind of aligned with my true nature and self than I have ever experienced in my adult life. And it is sad when I think about how long insecurity and past trauma and self-hatred has plagued me.
Right.
And our middle daughter is a gifted musician and artist. And she has a lot to say to the world. Yeah. And as I watch her struggle with giving herself permission to be seen, when I watch her struggle with insecurity, when I watch her struggle with seeing everyone else popping off in their careers and starting to tour and putting stuff out, and she's not there yet.
Right.
I see myself. And I think we all have some version of that, where we know what we deeply want and we feel paralyzed in our ability to take the steps to do it.
Right.
And so my deepest fear, because I know that this is not my path to walk, it's hers. My deepest fear in this moment is kind of that helpless feeling of knowing that there's nothing I can do about it. And that I really hope she figures it out.
Right.
She doesn't have to when she's 20. She doesn't have to when she's 30. She doesn't have to do when she's 40. I mean, it took me 53 years.
Right.
Might take her 60, might take her 70, might never actually have the breakthrough. But my deepest fear is I'm just present because I know I'm going to see her tonight.
Yeah.
As I so badly want that for her. And I'm afraid that she is going to spend so much unnecessary time like I did.
Right.
And I think that's the thing about the high five habit and the 5-second rule that makes me so happy is if I can save you the headache and the heartache that I caused myself because I didn't know any better. And if you can use these tools to push through fear.
Yeah.
And if you can use these tools to repair your relationship with yourself and to start believing in yourself again, you will be startled by the magic that happens in your life. And it's my deepest hope and wish that everybody, including my daughter and including you listening to us right now or watching us right now, do it sooner rather than later.
I love that. And even if they don't.
And even if you don't.
And then you go through 50 plus jobs figuring it out or 50 plus things.
I needed them all.
Every single thing is preparing them.
For something amazing that hasn't happened yet.
I love that. This is a whole full circle moment between you and your daughter. And that's how we can focus on being.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
And you know what I do as a mom? I don't say a damn thing. Because I know she's putting enough pressure on herself.
Yes.
That if I can just do anything but love her up, exactly where she is and exactly where she isn't.
Yeah.
That's all there is to do.
I love that. That's amazing. Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
If this could be Mel's world.
Yeah.
If you could wake up tomorrow and you're like, oh, I get a chance to like create in the world I want to see, what would it look like?
Every human being would never leave a bathroom without high-fiving themselves in a mirror.
I love it. High five challenge. Mel's world. Yes. Great job. I love it. Thank you so much, Mel, for joining us today. I signed up for the high five challenge. I'm high fiving myself. I love it.
What do you love about it?
I love that it just gives me a moment to connect and honor myself instead of going through all the judgment. It's like validation. It's like connection. It's self-love. It is self-love in the morning. I think it's important because usually I go through my rituals. I'm not looking at myself. And I'm the type of person where
I think your audience would be surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
That because you are so grounded. You're also deeply connected and spiritual, and you do have all these rituals. And so it makes me so happy to hear that even for somebody that is practicing so much self-love and intentionality and spirituality, that there is even something for you to access.
Right.
Through this ritual.
100%, because life is not about perfection. It's about practice. I am human. We're all human. I feel we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So there's never going to, no matter how many downward facing dogs and meditations and affirmations that I say, I'm still going through this human experience. So I'm going to experience microaggressions. I'm going to experience insults. I'm going to experience frustration, fear, depression, like all the things that I experience. But that doesn't mean I need to beat myself up.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I need to stop thinking less of myself or thinking I'm not enough, but it happens. And it's so natural because that's part of the human experience. But I need a ritual or a habit that's going to bring me back to myself. And that's what the high five does for me. That's what meditation does for me. And I don't care if I have a list of 20 things. And my suggestion is people listening, pick what works best for you. But the high five is scientifically proved to work. Meditation, scientifically proved to work. These things are tools that can help along the way.
Yeah.
It's not about doing it perfectly. When you remember, give yourself a high five. Thank you so much for joining us on the Get Loved Up podcast. We are here because you turn up every day and listen and support. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for that free high five habit challenge. You're going to see people from all over the world there. And if you haven't already, leave a review. Let us know your biggest takeaways from this podcast. Make sure if you are posting on social media, tag us. Let us know how you feel. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what resonated with you the most. And until next time, love yourself, love others, and love the world. One day at a time, one breath at a time. Peace and love. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for being part of the Get Loved Up community. I like to share topics and people making a positive impact in the world, and your feedback means the world to me. If you haven't already left a review, please leave a 5-star review and let me know what you want to hear more of on the show. I'm here for you, and together we're making the world a better place, one day at a time, one show at a time. Thank you for listening.